The XFL made its return this weekend, kind of. It's a completely different league than the one that debuted in 2001 and lasted one season. I watched 3 of the 4 games, not all of them, not every minute. I love the kickoff, Big Cat. It looks like electric football when you have 10 guys on the 30 and 10 guys on the 35 standing still while the ball is in the air, and then they all start moving once the returner catches it. And it's also a much safer play because you don't have guys running full speed at each other, concussing themselves or breaking their necks, which has happened with kick returns. But, look, it did well. 3.3 million watched it on ABC on Saturday. 2.5 million watched it on ESPN on Sunday. I just, is it sustainable? The point that you made last week, once we get into March Madness, once we get into NFL free agency, once baseball is back, once basketball NBA style starts to heat up, hockey playoffs roll around, will it be forgotten? Will it just be a curiosity, or will it have a footing?
Right. I agree with you there, and because it's my own point, that's why I'm agreeing with you. I just realized that. We're at the end of it. Sounded really smart what you said, and then I realized you were just quoting me. But I watched it, Mike. I watched most of the games. It's okay. Like, I liked it. It was better than the AAF. It's not NFL, and I don't think it's ever going to be the NFL. And that's really what it comes down to me, is that the rules are great. I love that the NFL will be forced to adapt to some of these rules. You mentioned the kickoff rule. I also really, really enjoyed the 3-point rule because it feels like teams are still in it. You know what I mean? When you're down 17 points, it's still a 2-score game. That adds a little intrigue to the whole, affair. My problem is not only the schedule of, hey, when other sports get kicking, when playoffs come for the NBA and March Madness, all this, you're going to be tuning into that. It's just the quality of play is never going to be the NFL. Just doing this show for the last 2 hours, watching Cam Newton highlights, watching, who else we show? Phil Rivers highlights, watching Dak Prescott highlights. You realize the quality of play in the NFL is at such a level, and to take a step back and watch quarterbacks that can't make it in the NFL, and a lot of them have tried and failed, it's just a different football. It's just not the same level. So while I'll probably continue to watch, I won't invest a super large amount of time into it, knowing that at the end of the day, if there's March Madness on, I'm probably going to be watching March Madness. No, I will be watching March Madness.
The star of the week for week 1 was P.J. Walker, who used to be known as Philip Walker, who had 3 preseasons with the Colts, never played in a regular season game, never made it to the 53-man roster. He was the best player this past weekend, at least as it relates to the award that they gave out. He had 4 touchdown passes for the Houston Roughnecks in their 37-17 win over the LA Wildcats. Oh, my God, how do I remember the score of that game? And the scoring wasn't as much as really I thought it would be. And I don't like the fact that they've got the 3 levels of extra point, and they always go for 1.
I know.
Go for 1 from the 2. Go for 2 from the 5 at a minimum.
Mike, it's so funny when you watch the XFL, that hit me right away, where you have a bunch of guys who are coaching, who are cast off, who are maybe trying to get back in the NFL. Kevin Gilbride, cast off in 2013. Mark Trestman, fired by the Bears. He obviously was with the Ravens for a little bit, then in the CFL. But for the majority of the guys who are coaching outside of maybe Bob Stoops, they didn't willingly walk away from the NFL or high-level college football. It was their time. So they're all trying to get back into this high-level football, the NFL, and you'd think the way to get back into it is to be aggressive, to throw it down the field, to go for 3, go for it on 4th down, yet the inner football guy comes over and they say, we got to do the most conservative thing possible. It's crazy. It's actually like a great sociological or psychological experiment to watch football guys trying to get back to where they once were and doing it with the most conservative route they can possibly take.
And it's ridiculous because, look, I understand coaches don't like to do the unconventional thing. If you do the conventional thing and it doesn't work, then nobody can criticize you. You do something unconventional, you get criticized. There's no convention. This is all new. They all should just have agreed, we're just going to go for 2. Let the default is we're going to go for 2. We'll go for 1 if it's a tie game. Even then, don't you want a little more space? Hell, I'd put it at the 10 every time and go for 3. Give me a little room to work with down here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure someone will do an analytical deep dive into the XFL, and you should go for 3 every single time. It's awesome. Do it.
Here's another point that Peter King and I made earlier this week. The D.C. Defenders had 17,000 people and change in a 20,000-seat stadium. It felt like an exciting game. The New York Guardians had 17,000 and change in 82,000-seat MetLife Stadium. It felt like an empty venue. And why don't they have all these teams playing in 20,000-seat stadiums? I mean, I know that at some level you want to say, well, if this really takes off, we don't want to be capped at 20,000. But to get started for the first year or two, you need to be realistic about how many people are going to show up. And if you get 17,000 week 1, who's going to be there week 8 or 9? And it just looks awful on TV to have the upper deck completely empty in all of these stadiums, playing stadiums that don't have an upper deck.
I agree. And there's a lot of MLS stadiums out there, and a lot of them are built to 20,000 capacity. I agree. The DC Defenders game felt different than the other games because you felt like you were watching a packed house and people were very invested. Also, Cardale Jones is another reason why you need some big names. And I know, we've seen the Colin Kaepernick news the last couple of days about how he wanted a lot of money, which he should have because he's an NFL, quarterback. But how about, Johnny Manziel or Tim Tebow? Like, getting these type of names, these big names, would make more people tune in. I tuned in on Saturday because I wanted to see how Cardale Jones is doing. I wanted to see, hey, why isn't this worked out? Because I always thought Cardale Jones was a good quarterback, and his run at Ohio State was incredible. So those type of names are very important to keep people invested and keep people wanting to tune in and seeing how these players are doing.
If you were Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback who can't enter the NFL draft until April of 2021, what would it take? How much money would it take to get you to leave Clemson and play in the XFL? And knowing that you can do it this season and next season, how much per year?
I would do it for $40 million.
40? Oh, my God. Yeah.
Well, ask yourself this, Mike. What's his insurance?
It's 10 games.
I know, but what's his...
Buy an insurance policy.
Okay, he already has an insurance policy, and then what will he make guaranteed being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft?
Between 35 and 40 million on a 4-year deal.
All right, so I do, 40 million.
I think he'd do it for less than, I think 39. I think you could get him for 39.
Well, I anchor the negotiation at 40. So
I think between 5 and 10 million. He's still going to play at Clemson for free. He's going to play 15 more games at Clemson for free. Why not play 20 at the XFL and make $20 million? All
right, 45. 45, done. You got yourself a deal.
Do it, Vince McMahon. Get out of here. Everybody have a great day. See you Thursday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.